Sometimes in geopolitics, there are moments that feel like they have been taken straight out of a movie script. And right now, we're looking at one of them. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, two men who have dominated headlines for more than a decade, are about to sit face to face in Alaska on August 15, 2025. Yes, Alaska. The same Alaska that America bought from Russia back in 1867 for just $7.2 million, a deal many Russian nationalists still call a historic mistake. And now, 158 years later, the two countries will meet on that very soil to discuss ending one of the most dangerous wars of our time, the Russia-Ukraine war. For Indians, this is like two rival cricket boards deciding the fate of the World Cup, except here the stadium is a piece of land both sides have fought over in history. Trump made it official in his typical style, bold, straight to the point, and on Truth Social. He said, "The highly anticipated meeting between myself as President of the United States of America and President Vladimir Putin of Russia will take place next Friday, August 15, 2025 in the great state of Alaska. Further details to follow." And then, speaking to reporters, he added a line that instantly set the geopolitical community buzzing. "There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both." Now, for anyone who's followed this war, swapping of territories is not some harmless cricket player transfer between IPL teams. It's the polite way of saying Ukraine might have to give up parts of its land in exchange for peace. That alone makes this meeting one of the most controversial and high-stakes diplomatic events in years. And let's be honest, if someone suggested India give up Arunachal Pradesh for peace, we'd have the same outrage Ukraine is feeling right now. Let's unpack the reality here. As of August 2025, Russia controls large parts of eastern and southern Ukraine, including Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea, and chunks of Kherson and Zaporizhia. These aren't just random patches of land. We're talking about territories with major ports, industrial hubs, and symbolic value. Moscow has been crystal clear about what it wants: full recognition of its control over these areas, a land bridge to Crimea, and guarantees that Ukraine will never join NATO. And in return, they're willing to stop fighting, at least on paper. But as we've seen in history, peace deals involving land are tricky. They can either be game-changing, like the Camp David Accords between Egypt and Israel, or they can collapse into chaos, like countless failed ceasefires in the Middle East. It's like signing a peace agreement with your neighbor about a boundary wall. Works fine, until someone plants a tree exactly on the line. Ukraine's position is equally firm. President Zelensky has said again and again, no territorial concessions without the consent of the Ukrainian people. And that's not just political posturing. Ukraine's constitution literally requires a nationwide referendum before giving up any land. So, even if Trump and Putin agree on something in Alaska, it's not like Ukraine is automatically bound to sign on the dotted line. Which raises the big question a lot of viewers might be thinking right now. Can Trump actually end the war without Ukraine's direct approval? The short answer is no. But the longer answer is, he might still try. Trump has always played politics like a reality show, and Alaska might just be his next season finale. And this is where Trump's personal style comes into play. Since returning to office in January 2025, he's been on a diplomatic speed run. Direct leader-to-leader negotiations, minimal bureaucracy, and maximum theatrics. He claims to have ended 6 international conflicts in less than 8 months, though critics argue some of those ends are more like temporary pauses. His supporters love it. They see him as a deal-maker-in-chief who cuts through the nonsense. His critics? They think this approach undermines institutions and gives too much legitimacy to authoritarian leaders. And let's be honest, both things can be true at the same time. That's geopolitics for you. Shades of grey, not black and white. Think of it like Indian wedding negotiations. Both families can claim victory at the end, but only one side knows who really compromised more. Now, let's talk about Alaska as the venue. This isn't just about convenience or a scenic backdrop. Alaska is a geopolitical symbol. It's the closest US state to Russia. You can literally see Russian territory from some Alaskan islands across the Bering Strait. Choosing Alaska sends a subtle but powerful message. We meet on US soil, but as close to Russia as possible. It's a balancing act between showing American dominance and offering a kind of neutral ground. And for Putin, stepping into Alaska is a reminder of lost Russian territory, which makes it all the more theatrical for his domestic audience. Imagine the headlines in Russian state media. Putin returns to Alaska to shape the future of Ukraine. It's the kind of narrative you can't buy with oil money, though they've probably tried. Speaking of narratives, Russia's media machine has already started framing Trump as a pragmatic leader who's correcting historical errors and willing to talk without ideological baggage. On the flip side, American mainstream outlets are split. Some see it as a bold, necessary step to stop a devastating war, while others warn that it's basically rewarding aggression. Conservative media in the US often casts Trump as a peacemaker. Liberal outlets focus on the danger of normalizing land grabs. And if you're scrolling through social media, you'll find everything, from memes of Trump and Putin riding polar bears in Alaska to serious debates about whether this meeting could fracture NATO unity. Here's the deeper link. The last time global leaders made backroom deals like this, without everyone at the table, was the 2015 Iran nuclear agreement. And before that, the 1972 US-China opening. Both reshaped geopolitics overnight, for better or worse. And that NATO angle is crucial. Poland, the Baltic states, and other countries on Russia's border are nervous. They've seen what happens when big powers cut deals without consulting the smaller players. History has not been kind to them in such cases. Officially, NATO hasn't opposed the meeting, but there's a lot of unease. The European Union, too, is in a tough spot. They want peace, but they don't want it at the cost of legitimizing territorial changes by force. And they're wary of Washington and Moscow making decisions that sideline Kiev and Brussels. This is where the contrast is stark. On one hand, peace talks are usually celebrated. On the other, the way these talks are happening could leave long-lasting scars on alliances. And for India, the lesson is clear. Never assume your allies will fight your battles exactly how you want. Ask Vietnam how that went during the South China Sea tensions. Now, for the Indian audience watching this, you might wonder, why should we care about a meeting in Alaska between two other countries? The answer is, because global geopolitics is a chain reaction. If this summit leads to even a partial ceasefire, energy prices could stabilize, which directly impacts our fuel costs here in India. It could also shift the US's focus away from Europe and back towards the Indo-Pacific, which changes the dynamics with China, something that matters a lot to us, given our own border tensions. And let's not forget, India has been walking a tightrope in this war, maintaining strong ties with Russia while expanding strategic partnerships with the US. This summit could either make that balancing act easier or much harder. We saw a similar tightrope during the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, when India had to balance Soviet support with US pressure. That history is still a masterclass in diplomatic jugglery. Trump's advantage before this meeting is clear. He can decide whether to tighten or relax US sanctions. And NATO's military power is still a big pressure tool. Putin's advantage? He controls the land, has strong support at home for his war plans, and has seen Western countries disagree before. Both men know this meeting is about more than Ukraine. It's about proving to the world that they can shape global politics. And for Trump, it's also about showing his people that he can deliver big results. The date, August 15th, is no coincidence. Here's the irony. August 15th is also India's Independence Day. So, while we are celebrating freedom from colonial rule, two superpowers will be deciding the fate of another country's sovereignty. Of course, there's a big risk factor. If this meeting fails, it's not just a missed opportunity. It could actually make the war worse. Russia might feel emboldened to push further. Ukraine might double down militarily. And NATO could end up even more divided. And if the meeting succeeds, that's where the hot take comes in. I think a partial deal is more dangerous than no deal at all. Why? Because a partial deal could freeze the conflict in place without solving it, giving both sides time to regroup for round 2. It's like pausing a cricket match due to rain, but not resolving the score. You're just setting up for more drama later. And in geopolitics, more drama later often means more lives lost later. And here's something else to think about. What if Ukraine refuses to follow through on whatever Trump and Putin agree on? Legally they can, and politically they might have to avoid backlash from their own people. That scenario would put Trump in the awkward position of having negotiated peace that doesn't actually happen, while Putin gets to say, "We were ready, but Kiev wasn't serious." In the court of global public opinion, that matters. The same way India often gets blamed for stalling trade deals when in reality we're just protecting our own farmers and industries. So, where does this leave us? We're a week away from a meeting that could either be remembered as the start of peace or the beginning of a new, more dangerous phase in the war. It's a gamble, high risk, high reward. And it's playing out not in Geneva or Helsinki or some grand European palace, but in Alaska, a place whose very existence as US territory is the result of a 19th century geopolitical deal between these same two nations. For us watching from India, this is a reminder that big power politics never happen in isolation. Whether it's tariffs, energy prices, or military alliances, the ripple effects reach our shores faster than we realize. So, as August 15th approaches, I'm not just watching for handshake photos and joint statements. I'm watching for the fine print, the small lines in the agreement that could change the way the world works over the next decade. Because here's the truth. In geopolitics, the headlines are for the public, but the real power is in the details no one talks about, until it's too late. And those details, decided in a room in Alaska, might just be the difference between a world moving towards stability or one sliding deeper into uncertainty. So, what do you think? Is Trump walking into this as a bold peacemaker who can pull off a historic deal? Or is this a dangerous gamble that rewards aggression and sidelines Ukraine? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I genuinely want to know where you stand on this. And if you found this breakdown useful, hit the like button, subscribe for more deep dives into global events, and share this video with friends. Before you go, don't miss my previous video on the MKV missile system. It's a mind-blowing look at how just one Indian missile could stop 10 nuclear attacks at once. It's not just defense tech, it's a game changer for India's security. Watch it now, and you'll see exactly why our missile program is something the whole world is watching. We'll be watching August 15th together, and then we'll be right back here to break down what really went down in Alaska.